welcome Dr. Arvind Subramanian, Chief Economic Advisor to the Modi government. I don't think Dr. Subramanian needs much introduction before this august and very informed audience. We probably want to know more from him than of him. Would you like to start off by saying something, on your economic philosophy, on your, the entire, we can start off, and then we'll come to the more meaty stuff later.
Yeah, actually, I should probably begin by saying that one of probably the greatest economist of the last 60, 70 years died today, Professor Kenneth Arrow. I think, just to be provocative a little bit, I think in the pantheon of economists, I think you'd have Adam Smith, John Maynard Keynes, and then Samuelson and Arrow, and then everyone else is kind of riffraff after all these four people. So today a great economist died. But I really, if you want, about a philosophy of economics, I firmly believe in what, either you could listen to John Maynard Keynes. We actually quote him in the preface, what an ideal economist should be. Basically, he should be, not just an economist, but know many other things. Symbols, words, you must get into the trenches, but you must be removed, just everything. And there's a better way well, actually, I just remembered, a way of paraphrasing that would be to quote the great postmodern philosopher Amitabh Bachchan, when he said, इसमें कहानी में नाच होना चाहिए, गाना होना चाहिए, tragedy, comedy, dishum bhi hona chahiye, So I think that's what I think all the attributes that. Because really economics is not a cold science, as it were. I mean, I think, especially when it comes to policy making, I think so many things go into, what is good policy. So I really would urge, the problem, of course, is that today in the world of academia, it encourages specialization of an extremely narrow sort. You become very good at some very minute aspect of economic policy. So, of economics. So, whereas policy is a completely different ball game. So, I think that's broadly the way I see things.
Okay, so now I think we'll come to the meatier stuff, The main thing is, of course, demonetization. I think for about a month after this happened, you were conspicuously silent on the whole thing. So to start off with, I mean, were you in the loop at all? I mean, this is a question which obviously will be asked by many. And please don't say that I'll leave it to my memoirs.
That's what I was going to say. Look, I think that in some ways it's. That's history, that's past, and I think that it becomes less interesting to know who was or who was not in the loop. I think it was a decision taken by a select group of people, and I think we've all now had to, follow up on it, analyze it, and study. But I mean, this is the response that I gave when I was asked, and I'm going to repeat it. I think it's a Buddhist saying which says that, speak only when you can improve upon the silence. Or to paraphrase it, I think in the case of demonetization, it's speak only if you can improve upon the clamor, the cacophony, the kind of everything that was going on. And in some ways, and I'm being completely honest when I say that had all of us many people did jump in, but I can honestly say that when we wrote the chapter on demonetization, I think it gave us the time to, work through all the complexity of the issue. Because my understanding of this on day one was very different from my understanding of it when, we finally wrote the demonetization chapter. So in some ways, I'm very glad that I was silent for a very long time, because God knows what I might have said and regretted later on.
So the government didn't seek the advice of the chief economic advisor. Is that what you're saying?
I think, let me say that this is a government that's, extremely receptive to the ideas of the chief economic advisor. Whether it's adhered to in 100% of cases as opposed to 99% of cases is kind of an open question.
No, here the issue is whether the advice was sought in the first place.
I think advice was probably sought from a lot of quarters. I think it was, and decisions were made.
Even in the chapter on demonetization, your prognosis of growth following whatever demonetization is not very sanguine or bullish or and in fact the entire language is very uncertain, whereas unlike say the RBI governor, who says that who says that the growth, the recovery will be V-shaped. And in many cases, like you have even said things like, normally demonetizations have occurred, in the context of hyperinflation, war, political upheavals, and these kind of things. Whereas here, this was in a country with whatever political stability, macroeconomic stability, and growth which was very normal. And plus, you have also indicated that the recorded GDP growth, which will be the CSO data, will hugely underestimate the impact on the informal and cash-based economy because these are not included because their production is not adequately captured by the national income account. So isn't it quite very different from the general government view and even the RBI view?
See, I think that in this age of kind of post-truth, world that we live in, one response is that how do you, cope with this post-truth? But surely I think another response should be, we must resist this post-truth. We must try and get at the truth, right? And I think that it's really important, I think, for people generally in public life, but especially in government, that, people can kind of trust what, government officials are saying. So I think it was really important, at least for us, the team and I, that we come out with a completely fair and balanced assessment of what happened, and I think that's what we tried to do, but also that I felt that if you didn't do this, it would be kind of letting down the public at large. But I think equally one should recognize here is that, if you want to give my team and me credit for doing this, I think, the government deserves a lot of credit for actually, allowing this to be published. I think that we forget that, right? I think that, so in that sense, I'm very glad the way it came out. In fact, today, the most preeminent financial journalist in the world, Martin Wolf, has a piece on demonetization, where he basically draws upon the survey. And I think the finance minister also read it and found it a very balanced assessment. So I think that at least in hindsight, it seems that we made kind of the right choices in terms of what we said and how we discussed. See, I think that in all these things, I want to say one other point is that, look, on the one hand, we tried to be as objective as possible, right? And we said very clearly there would be an impact on the informal sector, which would be understated, and of course there could be possible benefits as well. But what we wanted to also do was to just share with the reader the process of, arriving at our conclusions. So we're completely transparent about what data sources we used, how we analyzed it, and just put it out there. Because I think a lot of what happens in government is that extreme caution leads to inaction and indecision. So you say, it's very difficult to estimate GDP growth, so I won't estimate GDP growth. And I think we decided to say, look, it is very difficult, but we'll put it out there, make our assumptions clear. And then, obviously by definition, we're going to be wrong or not completely right. But at least how we think through these things is very transparent.
Yeah. One thing which you referred to Martin Wolf, one thing which he immediately points out as in the first paragraph itself, like if a democratically elected leader can, dare to do something like demonetization, deprive people of 86% of the total currency, then what all he can dare to do is a question which he leaves unanswered. Do you think that it, in the sense that, of course there is one aspect of secrecy, in maintaining secrecy which the government time and again talked about, but the whole the end result being almost the entire money coming to the banking system in whatever format, plus or minus. This could have been it could have been announced, could have been known to people. They could have, faced less hardships in this, over this period of, 3-4 months.
Sorry, I think there are 2 or 3 things in what you said. I mean, one is, did you need to maintain secrecy to do this in the first place? And I think that certainly if you go back and read the Wanchu Committee report, which wrote about this in 1971, I think around the world they feel that, if you really want to strike at this, some amount of secrecy is necessary. The second thing, I mean, the other question you're asking is, is it necessary to make clear, for example, how much money has come back into the banking system and how much is kind of going to be unreturned? And I think these are things that I think there is, given how important some of these numbers are, I don't deal with this very closely, but my sense is that there is now a kind of extreme caution about ensuring that the numbers that now we finally put out are exactly right and are not subject to kind of, because after all there was a complaint or a criticism that policy was kind of going was a little bit going up and down in the whole thing. So there is a kind of premium on trying to be careful and about whatever is said, including the numbers that will come out. So I think I can understand a little bit the caution, but I think broadly, I think now, once the initial secrecy had to be maintained, I think the more transparency we have about everything, the better it's going to be, yeah.
Certain things which seem to be callous on the part of the government is like when you see a tweet in the morning by, say, the Economic Affairs Secretary saying that don't overdraw the money because you are depriving others of it. Just a week back, the finance minister did say that, there is no shortage after a few weeks of demonetization. So for any person, when you say that don't overdraw money, what does that mean? When you have set limits of withdrawal, then you say don't draw even your limits up to which you are allowed to.
Let's say I didn't tweet that. Let's just put it that way. I think that just to make a general remark here. See, I think something about maybe being in government that people kind of see it as a bully pulpit, and that you can kind of also make these exhortations, as it were, as opposed to sticking to facts and clear policy. But these are styles of functioning that can vary across individuals in government. I mean, I wouldn't have tweeted this, for example.